Oh, oh, we've got the little one with you. How are you doing?
We're good. We're good. I'm just gonna move. I'm just gonna move my camera up so I can stand and jiggle.
No problem. Let me explain to people what we're doing today.
Yeah.
So most of you will know that I'm an intuitive guide, or if you want to call it a psychic and medium. And over the years, I've developed and honed in my craft, and I've worked with loads and loads of people. And Lucy's story is a really good story because when we met years ago, Lucy helped me with PR. So I did her course. I ended up in Cosmopolitan, Independent, Female, Daily Mail, loads and loads of publications because that's what I wanted. So that's how I met Lucy. And then we ended up working together where I did a reading for her. Now, why this is important is because I don't think, Lucy, if I'm right, at the time when I said, let me do a reading, I'm not sure you knew what you were getting yourself into, were you?
Because you said, "Oh, do you want me to read your energy?" And I don't know what I was expecting, but I definitely wasn't expecting what you tell me to come out.
I know. There was this moment during our first session where I saw a rabbit in headlights moment, and I thought, she thinks I'm talking utter shit.
100%. Yeah. No, it wasn't even just like, yeah. I mean, it was definitely. I definitely thought this is never going to happen. What you're saying is never going to happen to me.
Yeah. So basically, I just swapped, and I was not as experienced as I am now. My level of interpretation and the way I deliver messages is much clearer, and in a way that people can receive them. Because often when I'm reading energy and I'm reading what's happening in the future, what's gone in the past, and aligning all of these things, sometimes when I'm reading for people, that might not be in their awareness. So I think my first experience with you was a bit like, what's she going on about? Is this going to happen? I can't see, it's relative in my world. So do you remember that first session? Like, what was going through your head when I first started reading for you?
So I guess it's good to do some kind of like from twos. So I was living in East London. I remember there was a ladder in the background of my Zoom, and you said to me, "Oh, I can see you're doing work on your house, but I can tell you now you're going to move to France." And I literally thought, this woman is absolutely crackers. There's no way. I was with my old babe, my second child, who'd just been like born. I was like, absolutely no way. I'm going to be always in London for forever. Like, it just wasn't even like on my radar. And then we talked about, this is actually why we got in touch and kind of why the message happened today, because you were like, "Oh, I can see like a girl, like a baby girl." And I was like, couldn't see myself going through everything I'd gone through to have a second, to have a third, which is why I then messaged recently. Because the other thing, the really strange thing is, when we talked about France, you were like, "Oh, I can see a flat body of water." And I overlook a lake. And so the other week I was sort of overlooking the lake, holding my daughter in France, thinking, "Oh, that's quite a few things that Yaz said to me 4 years ago that I never believed could have like happening." Especially because I'd had, in between that time, I'd had 2 miscarriages. So I was like, "Oh, it's not happening for me." And actually then when I stopped trying, everything sort of fell into place. But there was also like other things, like you spoke about job opportunities for me and Adrienne, and they, like one of them, I remember you saying the word corporate, and I was like, "Corporate? We're not corporate." And then subsequently we have had like opportunities that are in that more corporate space. I'm gonna sit down and get my boobs out. So that was like a complete like surprise as well, because internally I was like, "No, we're creatives, we're fun, like creative people. We're never going to be working with corporates." And then here we are.
So the thing,
like with Adobe, which is arguably a big corporate company.
It's really interesting because people, when I do readings, people normally come to me about love, about work and things like that. And I think the thing is, any other psychic can give you general information, but I know that when I do the readings, I try and make them as specific as possible so they can be as relatable as possible. But equally, that level of detail can be a bit strange. And I remember receiving a picture from you and you said, guess where I'm at? And you showed me a picture of you overlooking the water in France, and I was like, holy cow, I remember saying that. But I don't remember everything I said, which is really good, because I know I allow people to record my readings because I won't remember what I've said because I channel it. It's not my words. So when you come back and you said this and you said that, and I was like, I don't recall all of it, but I'm glad it's happening. Now, the thing is when we had our first session, when I said I'll read your energy, had you ever had any energy work, intuitive work, psychic readings before?
Hold on, I'm just going to pass the baby over to baby daddy.
Yeah, no problem. Well, Lucy's just dealing with her lovely little baby. I'm just going to open it up to some questions. Let me know if you're a skeptic when it comes to psychics, mediums, and if you've had a reading and things have come true. So let me know in the comments if that's been you.
Okay.
That's okay, don't worry.
Chat.
Let me tell you something. When I do readings or energy work, or we're talking about this, dogs and babies always pipe up. It's like they know.
Found as well, but he's now followed the baby, so it's fine.
Oh.
I had like a I think I had like a tarot reading, like 2 sort of tarot readings in my life, but they were a long time ago, and there was never any real like light bulb click afterwards. But equally, I think I never sort of sat there and thought, well, I'm going to sneeze, the excitement. What they were saying. So I then never had that later on moment of like, oh my gosh, like this is like insanely true. Whereas with you, I think the things you were telling me were so specific, and my reaction was so viscerally like, this is not going to happen for me. I'm not going to do this. Like even things like you were saying, I can see you with a magazine collar, and I was like, and now this year it's like actually writing is something I really have kind of gone back on, and actually part of that has been the move to France has made me go back to sort of my 7-year-old self and be like, what did I used to love doing? And what I used to love doing was writing. And then I'm like, oh yes, like mentioned that to me, and I didn't even click at the time. But also there was an interpretation I remember with my son, where you said to me, your exact words, because I went back and watched it later on, was it will never be as bad as it is before, and I can't see it being like a big open heart surgery. And I remember when I was told he was going to have open heart surgery again, I was a bit like, what? You said there wasn't going to be surgery? I felt so kind of like,
it's almost like a sense of betrayal. I believed you, and now we're doing this, right?
Yeah. And when he had that operation, we were home after 5 days, even though normally that's like a 2 to 3 months recovery period. And actually it was, for all extensive purposes, it may as well have been keyhole surgery for how quickly he bounced back. And when I re-watched it later, I was like, oh, she never actually said there was no surgery again. She actually just said it's never going to be as big as it was before. But I interpreted it as no surgery. Like I just took one bit of the sentence. So actually, I think having that opportunity to kind of go back on the words made me realize how easy it is to interpret it how you want. And even when we got out here, I remember I booked another reading with you because I didn't know where I was living and what I was doing. And I remember you saying, that's not your village, because I was talking about a village I really like. And in my heart, I was like, that's my, why are you saying that? That's my village. Not go back to the first village, which is where I live. And you're like, there's something on the outskirts, which is where I live now. And I was like, oh, no, there's not. And you were like, you're going to be in, and you said to me, you're going to be in by the end of September. And this was like August. And in France, you normally have to have at least 3.5 months paperwork to go through. So I was like, what is she talking about? There's no, I'm going to be in 3.5 months. It's not legally possible. So even though I'd done it before and you were right, I still had that feelings of like, this is just cannot be real. And then we basically found a house that was about to go on auction because the guy needed to sell it quickly because he was in debt. So it all went through and got sped through by the council because they needed a quick sale to pay off some bank loans, which was obviously completely unexpected, and then made it possible to do it almost within like 45 days. So it completely fit your timeline.
Do you know the thing is like, and we spoke about this yesterday before we came on, and you were saying that sometimes you have an attachment to something that you really want to happen. You want it to be your way. And what we forget is energy-wise, there's always a bigger plan. There's always more. And if we can just get over that thinking and just be like, okay, this is what I want, but I'm open to something else as well that could be better. Yeah. If you can just go with that, you start receiving the better. And like, I watched your journey from when you were here and everything that's happened. Every time I see your post when something else is happening, and like recently done up your home, like new colours and cool, it just lights my heart up because I'm like, she's on it. And so when I'm reading, I'm not reading from perhaps what the human wants here, and let's get a little bit fluffy for a moment. I'm reading like what your soul actually wanted for you and that journey. And there's a gap between what your soul wants and what you're actually living. And it's like, I can't see how that happens. This is something I hear a lot. I can't see how that's going to happen.
Yeah.
You must have experienced that a few times when I've given you readings and you've been like, I can't see how that's going to happen.
Every time.
So our last reading was yesterday. And so how have you approached that differently to the readings we've had before? Are you more open to it, or is there still a question mark of how is it actually going to happen?
You know, I still have that feeling where I get that resistance inside where I want something to happen. So we were talking about something to do with my house and my builder, and I have a very specific way of how I want that to go. So when you sort of gave your opinion on like an expertise on, I guess, where it's going, I was like, I don't want to be that way. That's not like for me. But it's funny. I think almost now where I've changed in it is I had, I guess, more specific challenges related to work and life and where it's going. And I guess what's slightly different, having followed your work as well, is sort of learning to tune into myself a little bit. Now there is a bit of, I sort of sometimes think I know what the answer is, but I kind of want you to give me that confirmation and permission, almost a bit like when you have an accountability partner or a coach, like, or when you coach other people but you still have a coach for yourself, like you know what the answer is, but you sometimes need somebody else to like put it out of you. So I definitely had a feeling internally of how I wanted to behave in the next sort of few months, 6 months, year in my business. And talking to you really gave me the confidence to do that, but also helped me reframe it externally, because I was thinking about fear in all of those decisions, and actually what you came back to me with was like positive energy and confidence to make those business decisions. And what that ripple effect would be on my audience as well. So like that really was poignant for me yesterday was you reminding me that actually, you know, stepping back as a mother is a good thing to remind people that it's okay to do. And reminded me that actually, like in my last 2 kind of maternity leaves, I didn't really see any of my peers doing that. So actually, if I can pass that baton on to other people, to not feel that pressure to always be on social media and making the next 5-figure month or whatever it is, and actually being like, no, you set yourself up, you're going to take some time off, you've got a bit of income planned, you can just disappear for a while and embrace it. So that was like a really big thing that I got out of the session yesterday.
So there's a few things yesterday I noticed, and I'll just run through. That was one of them, because there is an expectation as a mum that when you have your child, you need to go straight back to work. And that I'm a real big fan, if you can afford it, to be with your child. Okay, I spent a year with mine and I was skint in that year, but I had an amazing year with her, right?
Yeah.
So, but what I was trying to explain in that, you set the precedent for the new wave of other mums who are saying, I don't have to rush back to work. It's okay to give myself permission and show others that that can happen. It's really important because I feel like you've got a following and an audience that needs to hear that. Like you said, you didn't have that in who you were following. So it's like, be the first one to tell people in your group that that's okay to do. So a couple of things that were really interesting when we spoke about work, and this happens often because I do a lot of intuitive work with people who have businesses and how to move forward, whether that's strategy, whether that's planning, whatever it is. And I know some of the ideas that I get channeled through are big. So there was two things I said to you, and one prompted a question and one was not sure I like that. So we had to talk around it. And so you said something about, should I be doing this or this? And I said, why does it have to be a choice? Why can't you do both?
Yeah.
And you just went, oh, I don't know. Because both on your timeline for the future, both exist together with your daughter. That allows you to step back and still earn money in the way that you wanted to earn money, right? Yeah. So when I asked you that question, like, what was going on?
I guess I really thought, oh, I need to make a specific part, even though recently I've been talking about different making income to help other people. In my head, I was still like, oh, I can only do one of these things. And it was actually really crazy. We had that conversation yesterday because today I had a conversation with my French tax advisor who was like, are you going to be doing any more of this? And it was like one of the things we talked about yesterday. And I was like, yeah, quite a lot actually.
So it went from I don't know, but yeah, I went to quite a lot.
Yeah, and like Adrienne was like, that's so funny because if I'd been asked that question yesterday, I probably would have said no.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing, because we think that we can't have it all, right? And I'm always saying to people, it's never an either or, it's an and. But when you call it in, you're calling it in a way that is amenable to you. So when I said to you yesterday, have you put those thoughts on paper about what that looks like for you? How do you become a mum, have the time to yourself, a new mum again, have the time to yourself, still generate an income on your terms, and it still work out? And you were like, I haven't actually put it down, because it kind of lives here, doesn't it? I said, put it down. It's like a letter to the universe. Put it down, write it out, affirm it, put the paper away, and watch how it all comes together. It's because when it lives up here rent free, we're not actually making a decision on anything. And yesterday I said to you, make a decision. I said, you don't have to act on it straight away, but make a decision, because energy will tell you the answers of whether that's right or not. And the fact that we talked about that yesterday and things came into your awareness and your tax advisor saying, oh, you're going to do more of this. It's almost like the affirmation, the confirmation, the validation of that is coming back to you.
Like, yes. And I could almost feel like the ripple of my word, like, yes, I will be doing that. And it's weird now, like I joke sometimes with Adrienne. I think this is actually probably the difference. This sounds really like weird, but you might be with me on now. I think since we first spoke, there are certain times when I speak to somebody where they say something and it makes me almost like if I was in like the Matrix or a cartoon, I could almost feel like that energetic ripple where I'm like, yeah, that's going to happen. So like the last thing I taught before I gave birth, at the end of the session, the facilitator said, okay, Lucy, now you can go now and have your baby. And I actually had a whole week of work planned. But when she said that, I was like, I'm going to have the baby. And I was literally, my waters broke before that session, but I hadn't realized. And then I went to labor after that class. Like,
wow.
She said to me, like, you can go and have your baby now. I went and had the baby, which was crazy. And then there was somebody else the other day who was talking to me and she said, the difference between you and Adrienne is that you're fun. And as soon as she said the word fun, I was like, oh, actually, fun is like, it's always been there. It's always been this thread, and I've never really brought it to the surface. And when she said that word, I just felt like that's the word.
Yeah.
Like,
that is something I noticed about you when I first heard you speak at that women's members club that's no longer, I can't remember what it's called, but we don't talk about that. Okay. But when you were there, I thought, wow, what a sparky, fun, energetic person who's got humour and is slightly self-deprecating, but okay about it all. It's just like, this is me. Here's all my colours, and I'm just talking to you. And it really, really resonated with me because there's a level of realness in that, and permission that you gave yourself to just express yourself in that way. And if I may say, I think you may have lost that because your second son was unwell, and it does get heavy and it does get serious, doesn't it? You kind of get like, the worry comes in and the fun goes away a little bit. And I do believe because you've moved and you're in different energy, and the way you've come into pregnancy and having your daughter has been so different. It's such good energy.
It's been so different. And actually, again, with him, like we talked about this yesterday when we were talking about like what we can talk about today. If I didn't have that recording, I wouldn't have remembered speaking to you, because I don't remember anything from that time. And I was still showing up. I've got photos of him in hospital and photos of my social media posts interspersed with it. I didn't come off. I felt keep like promoting what I was doing. Who's coming on? Naomi. Would you? Oh my God, Yasmin, we got some PR from Naomi.
Absolutely, Naomi. Send me a DM. Thank you. Thank you, Lucy.
Amazing podcast, and yeah, you should definitely do that. I love it when it all works out. Yeah, so for me, it was really important this time. I almost had if I could, I was very lucky, touch wood, that I had a very healthy baby this time. And I didn't get that last time. So there was always things I didn't get before that I wanted to have this time. And almost...
was it simpler for you to conceive this time? Let's just address that.
You know the answer to this. Yeah, like this time I didn't even think about it. It just happened.
It just happened. Yeah.
I had 2 miscarriages after the last one, and I decided I would stop. And when I came to France, I'd get like a full MOT, because they're so much kind of better. I mean, not that the doctors are better, but it's easier to see a gynecologist without going through a GP. Just go and book it, done.
And your lifestyle is different, I will say.
Yeah.
It's a different environment. You're in a village, you're not in the city or a big town, and I feel like you've just gone...
Yeah.
And then the nervous system and the body responds to that, doesn't it?
Yeah, and it definitely took that. I think it's almost taken a year now from going from city to country life to feel that space. It was quite weird. What to be like, I used to be surrounded by people and sounds and noise, and now like my day is set by like the noise of the animals outside, which is like completely crazy. Or I'm really aware of like where the moon is in the sky. I had no idea where that was in London. Like I had
what I loved is in your stories, I think it was yesterday or today when I noticed, you said, I see faces in a box of veg, and the veg looked amazing. I was like, wow, look at those veg. And when I knew you before, I would never have seen you do that.
Never.
Just like, look at these, I'm really paying attention to these vegetables. And there's a whole other Lucy coming out, and I'm really liking this, you know?
I feel like I feel like a bit like that child in me is coming out again. And I think that's why it's also, I think with this maternity leave, it was like I wanted to just not take it so seriously and that space. But still, I think, do you know what we don't see enough of is ambition not played out as a 60-80 hour work week. Like I can still be ambitious and have big dreams and big goals without working my ass off all the time, and I can still be successful without running a 7-figure business or a team. You know, like,
I think that's the thing post-pandemic. Sorry to interrupt you. The whole 6-7-figure business. Everyone is chasing the 6-7-figure business. That is a sign of success. Now, everyone measures success differently in assets, materialism, well-being, whatever it is. For me, success is a calm nervous system, meaningful relationships, enjoying life, the beauty of life. And if I happen to have money that helps me do that, all great. But my definition of success is never chasing money. So I did business coaching for a while, and I still do it. But I'm never saying to people, get to the 6 and 7 figures. I'm saying, what does it mean for you? What do you need to get? And I love that you are giving women permission to do that as a new mum, and that it can come easy. And I'll just mention two things off the back of what you just said. One thing was when you talked about your son not being very well, and you lose the sense of fun. And so therefore, in the session that we had, you heard what you wanted to hear,
100%.
right? And I am so pleased we recorded that. I always encourage people to record my sessions, because when you go back on them, you're like, oh, it makes sense now, because you have to kind of embody and live that experience, come through the other side, and then be open to it. So that was really interesting. It's really hard to see positivity when you've got life challenges, your loved ones are not well, or the situations going around you that are heavy. It's really hard to see that.
I come back to you and be like, sorry, like I kind of sort of went for you a bit when I thought it was really wrong, and then actually I was like, sorry, you were right, I was just maybe not in a good place.
Yeah, and that's fine. I don't take any of this personally at all, because I know what I see is like the purest form of what I see, and I just hope that your path, that you see the path and you're on that path, and you are, and you have been. The other thing that we said yesterday when we had our last session was there was a type of thing that I said I can see you doing, incorporating into your business next year, and you went, I don't want to do that.
Yeah,
I don't like them. I don't want to do that. So it's almost like I hear the thing first of all, I gauge your reaction, and then while you're talking to me, I'm asking in the background, so how does it fit Lucy? How can Lucy bring it into her life? And then I represented it to you in a different way and said, how does that sit? And you had a different reaction, right?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I don't mind talking about it. Like the suggestion was for me to run a membership, and my visceral reaction was hate it. But again, that's my fear blocker, because I don't know what's coming up around the corner. I know my son's got another operation coming. I know I'm going to need to step out for a bit. I've got a new baby, so for the next year, I'm not going to have any childcare. So I don't want to commit to what in my head is a labor-intensive, heavy use of my time day in, day out, if I know I'm going to need to like step away. So part of that is feeling I don't have the capacity to deliver. And then when you kind of gave me these like 3 or 4 options of how I could deliver it, I was like, oh, yeah, maybe that could work.
And the thing is as well, the whole narrative of the mum working the 80 hours and the 7-figure pressure and all of that, we also feel like we need to over deliver. And I know right now through my own membership groups, people can only consume a certain amount of information, and they want quick, short bursts. And I think the preconceived idea about you need to have a membership with 100 things in it, where I'm saying actually you don't, because people need a little bit of information, they need a little bit of your time, and they need to have the time to implement it. So when you kind of put it into perspective, this sounds so obvious, right? It sounds so obvious. But part of us has got an obligation to fit into that hustle culture. And I'm done with that. I was done with that ages ago. Because I'm like, no, I believe it can be easier, and I can still have a great life, and I can still earn the money I need, and more, and there's loads of ands in mine. It's a bottomless and. So, and I like, if everything is infinite, you can have as many ands as you like, as long as the alignment is there for you, it feels good for you. And I really liked that you said, I feel it now. I kind of feel it inside me. And I know that you are feeling it because you've gone through a pregnancy and you've recently given birth. So you've had to be in your body to be in that. So when you're in your body embodying it, you kind of feel more, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
It's even things now like, and we sort of talked about this as well, like when it's the right thing, it happens easy. So the fact that I was like, yeah, it's like you predicted X, like I think there was like 6 things, let's say, that in the last fortnight I've been like, gosh, all of those 6 things I've noticed in the last 6 months have happened. Like this, I had a go, I moved here, this is happening with my work, like this is happening with my house, like crazy, like from all, not just work. And then to be able to kind of message you, and then you were like, do you want to do an IG live? And then that prompted me to redo a session with, and then we've got you a podcast, and it's like it's all like amazing. And I of had this thing at the moment where I don't put a lot of energy into showing up in the way that I used to, but when I do show up now, I feel like a pull to like, oh, I should message this person, oh, I'm gonna catch up with that person, and it's all happening in a much more natural way rather than me like forcing it and it feeling hard.
It feels more intentional, doesn't it?
And
rather than a bit grabby. It's like, oh, I should be doing it.
When you're in fear, like when I was in fear after my son was born, it was like I felt like I had to be everywhere and present and selling and hard. And actually, when you're operating like that, it just doesn't come.
Yeah.
And
it's exhausting.
Natural, and you have to have that, like, because I'm sure when I messaged you, I was like, oh my God. And it's like that energy like comes up, and then you met me with it, and then it all sort of goes on. I almost like liken it to like letting somebody out in traffic, you know, like the more you're kind of doing those little movements in your network, the more you start seeing the right people back to you.
Yeah. And I think the other thing that we should touch on as well, it's not always on our time. So when I read for you at the very beginning, I wasn't reading that there was going to be a lockdown or a pandemic or a political situation or whatever's going on. I didn't read from that. I was just reading directly for what I saw for you. So I wasn't reading the surrounding. So you said to me, do you think that that situation had a part to play in the fact that everything happened a little bit later, and then when it happened, it was just like, you called it the domino effect. It was like ding, 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 and it all happened, right? So my response to that was, yes, partly the pandemic. And the second thing is, it's never on our time. That's the thing. It's when we feel ready, when we have done the steps. So I suppose your daughter, her soul might have said to you, might have planned and said, right then, you're going to be my mum and I'm going to be born in France. So you had to get to France in order to have her. So there's a series and sequence of events that needs to happen for some things to drop in. And you've got to be open to receiving. That was the other thing, where as people who are pushing, who would come from intellect and will, we're like, intellectually, I know that's right, so I have to be willful and push the action. We forget there's a whole energy part of us that's actually supporting us, that actually, if we pull back like you're just about to do for your maternity leave, there is room for so much more to come in. And I don't believe, and tell me if I'm wrong, because you would go, 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 there might not have been room for it.
Yeah, no, 100%. And actually, like for me, even that, like out here, there was the growth pains where when I first got out, I was like, what have I done? And I would wake up in panic, like, why am I here? What am I doing? This isn't right. And then when I finally almost accepted it and started to do all the things that actually you advised me to do when I first got out, like make friends.
It's the obvious things, but we kind of isolate because we're like, oh, I'm in a new country. I'm not sure if I made the right move. Do I do it? Don't I do it? Your brain's telling you it's not safe. You're going, well, I've committed. I need to. It's a conflict, isn't there?
Hard for myself as possible and only make French friends. So I'd speak French, but of course, then there was no emotional depth to any of my conversations. Anyway, I guess the whole point is that like even when like the main thing was like moving to France, I feel like now I've settled into that and bedded into that. Like once we found the house, I got pregnant. And then once we got the house, we got the office space. And then even just having this space makes me feel like more creative. And then I sit and I look at the lake and I imagine I'm like Colin Firth in Love Actually with my time.
I love that. I love that. But you also said something really important yesterday, which was, I feel like my creativity spark has gone, or it's come down a little bit. It's not as creative. And there's something really important I would say to people. Again, it's the push, push, push culture. I must always be creative, must always have access to my creativity, my knowledge and things like that. And I'm like, Lucy, you've just had a child. Your energy reserves are going into healing your body, nurturing your body to be able to nurture your child. So therefore, certain aspects of us shut down a little bit. I know that, and I gave you the example of when I had pneumonia in 2020, I was overworking, I was in burnout. And because I wouldn't taken the time out, I got pneumonia. So I was grounded for 2 weeks and then I couldn't channel. The channel just went on holiday. It was like, nope, until you've committed to rest and surrender, we're not coming back. So for 2 weeks, I dedicated the time to myself and it came back bigger and better. And that's what I think, that when you allow yourself to nurture yourself and your child and your children, the creativity is going to come back, but it's going to come back, dare I say, in a more feminine, creative, nurturing, connective perspective with your people. That's what I feel for you.
Yeah, I definitely, and it was funny because even though I don't need your permission to take that break, I feel so empowered after our chat yesterday that actually I immediately put my phone down and went out for 4 hours. So then afterwards, when you followed up with me after the call, and I got back to you like 5 hours later, because that was the first time I looked at my phone after the session. So immediately I just felt like I don't need to have my phones on me. I can just fully throw myself into the family and being a new mum, and that's okay.
Yeah.
And say we're going to be money on the other side, because that's the thing. So obviously it's a position of privilege, like to be like, oh, I can afford to take the time off, but that's also part of moving to France, is that I don't have the big extortionate mortgage that I had in.
And I will say, darling, you say it's a position of privilege. Is it though, when you've really worked hard for years? Because you and your husband both work hard. You've been smart with the partnerships you've built. You've done that. You know, the pressure that you said about working 80 hours, being a mum, because you do have 2 other boys. So it's like you did do the work.
Yeah.
So is it actually privilege?
It worked every
You just
weekend.
made a really good choice by moving somewhere that's more cost effective for you and a better life.
Like we did work like every weekend, and Adrian was almost working every night in the run up. Like he didn't take any pat leave. Like, you know, the self-employed parenthood, when you're neither in France or the UK either, so we've got no government support. If you
So I feel like you've almost been a bit guilty and said I'm privileged, and I'm actually saying you were empowered enough to do the work and to make good choices for you and your family and your business, and then reap the rewards of it. And this is something that we've got to live with without the guilt. We're allowed this. It should be guilt-free, and there is no privilege in it. You make sound choices, and that's exactly where you should be. I'm just going to wrap this up shortly because I'm conscious that your daughter is like up and everything, but I just want to hit on this thing. You came to me yesterday with a whole different energy when you said having boys was different to having a girl, and now I really am feeling that feminine energy, and you want to be different because now you have a girl. Can you just explain that? Because I think this is really good. This is where your masculine doing energy levels up with the nurturing feminine, and when they meet in the middle, that's where we're aiming. It shouldn't really be out of balance. It should be access to both equally, so that you have the power of both when they're in balance. And that's where I think you're getting to. You're almost there, right? You're kind of learning what is this new thing.
It's I mean, I was kind of like brought up by masculine energy. I've always had masculine energy in the workplace, which I've always sort of lent on for that confidence, and I've not necessarily had very strong and secure feminine relationships. And actually, when I was pregnant the first 2 times, I didn't want to have a girl because of the female relationships and the dynamic I've experienced in my life. So actually this time when I had the girl, I was like, no, I feel ready, and it feels really healing. Her being there feels really healing in so many ways. It's made me kind of want to revisit and almost sort of like kind of rekindle sort of old friendships, like affirm like my current ones to make them stronger, ditch a few that maybe are not like working for me, really feel like, who do I want to be, who do I not want to be? Like I want to kind of break those patterns that I've seen historically in my family of like what motherhood looks like, and what I guess kind of love and confidence as a woman looks like. And so yeah, it's been like a huge transformation. I wasn't expecting it to feel the way that it's felt, and it's definitely, I think even with the move to France and then that getting pregnant out here and turning 40, it's been like such a big, I just feel like I've been on a massive journey, and to the rest of the world it's just one more year, it's just one more turn around the sun, but to me it feels so much bigger than that.
It's really interesting what you're saying, because I always saw that softness in you, and I do think when we really balance that up, there is so much strength in softness, and that softness has been previously seen perhaps on social media, the vulnerability, as weak. And my gosh, is it powerful. And that desire to want to really drop into that feminine is incredible. I love watching how you blossom. It's a really nice, and it's a great mirror for me, because I'm very masculine energy going into softness, and it just is a whole other vibe. So I'm loving where you're at. I'm going to continue to watch where you're headed, and there's as I kind of pointed out, next spring seems to be a very favourable time for you. Lots of new things.
Then, so maybe I'll emerge like a flower next spring.
Yeah, I think you're emerging anyway. It's just whether you do it publicly or privately. And that was one of the things we spoke about, right? It's like, I want to pull away from social media a little bit, and I'm in, out, because I'm like, I do what I do, and then I pull away to preserve myself, right? And then I come back out, and my people are still there, and then I go away again. And that's the thing. It's a choice of, do I do it publicly or do I do it privately? And then it comes into public arena when it does. And it doesn't mean you're not doing the work, but other people assume because they're not seeing it. If it's not on Instagram, it's not real. Nonsense. Do you know what I mean? But the private journey is so important, so important. So I'm so glad you gave yourself permission to do that. It was really, really nice. And it's just, I can't stop beaming, because every time you go, this happened, I'm like, wow, okay, all right, this is really good. And and I'm so glad you recorded it, because I don't remember. So.
I know, you're always like, I don't remember the bit about the water, and I'm like, but it's a lake, it's flat, not the sea, it's not, it's flat. It's like, because you were so flat water, and I was like, what, am I going to have a pond? Like that's
exactly. Yeah, no, that's the difference, because when people go abroad or I see them, they're always like, oh, is it by the coast? And I'm like, no, I can see water, but it's flat. There's a difference between coastal and inland water energetically when I see it. And it just felt right.
It felt good. And anybody wants to have like one of the clinic sessions like I have, what are the details?
Thank you, Lucy. My details are in my link in bio, and if you're new to me and you're like, I don't know, what this is, then your best bet is to go to a 30-minute session. You might not think 30 minutes is enough, but trust me, I used to do an hour sessions, and I purposefully took them back to 30 minutes because I can get through so much in 30 minutes. And one of the things is, people often say to me, is there anything else? Is there anything else? I'm like, I'm not telling you anything else, because you just need to learn to sit with what I've given you. Because if you knew all the things, would you have done it? Like, you knew you were going to be where you are. You did it, but does everyone actually follow through with all the actions and have the faith that it's going to materialize? Maybe not, right? But if you're in the flow of it and you're learning to let go of this and just going with this a bit more, then you're a bit more open to it. So you can find me in my link in bio. I also do long-term membership. I did away with my short-term membership, because I know that when I work with people on a longer period, there's so many different life challenges that come up. Like with you, it was your son, and then the move, and there's been some family things, and then other things, and there's always something more. So I think that working with someone longer term, you get the accountability, you get the confirmation and validation, and you can continue to move forward feeling comfortable in your body, those feels that you talked about earlier. So yeah, so that's it. And also, though you're on maternity leave, I know you have still probably got courses going on in the background, and I also know that there are people in my audience who have businesses as holistic therapists, healers, in the wellbeing business. So if you want to get into media, go and do Lucy's course, because that's how I got into media. I did her course, I followed her advice, and I appeared in lots of different media. It was a lovely validation that actually those type of people wanted to listen to something alternative. So yeah, it's great.
And not least, don't you teach people also how to pull out that intuitiveness inside themselves as well? Like, I saw you up on that. Is that a regular thing now? Or?
Yeah, so I was doing masterclasses, thank you for asking. And so masterclasses are going to come to an end, and what I do is going to be turned into a practitioner course, so that you can learn how to do this for yourself, and you can then help others. And for anyone who thinks that they're not gifted, I don't call it a gift. It's not a gift, it's inherent in you. Everyone can read energy. Everyone, and anyone who, there's a few people here that have been working with me on this live, and they'll tell you that it's quick. The only issue you will have is learning to trust it. And that's what we work on, to teach you how to trust your intuition, and how to heal yourself. Because I've been through a lot of trauma, from abuse to illness to toxic relationships, and I've healed all of that. So is that you're always on a healing journey. There's never a full stop, but it's a lesser version of it every time. So yeah, practitioner training coming in October. It was September, it's coming in October. I've just got the go ahead from the insurance company that I can be teaching this, and you can be insured on this. So inside a week, you can be doing this work proficiently with others. That's how easy it is. So yeah, thank you. All right, my love, I am so grateful to you for coming today and sharing your story. And it's like, people always talk about the good stuff, but thank you for sharing that you thought I was slightly mental and all of those things, because, you know, years ago, somebody told me, a medium told me I'd be doing this, and I told her she was mental. I actually said the words, "You are crazy, I'm never going to do this work," and here I am doing it.
I think the nice thing about our friendship as well is that I've always been, for better or worse, very brutally honest with you.
Yeah. I so appreciate that. I love that, you know, because that's what I know to be. So when someone mirrors that back to me, it's received with such appreciation, honestly.
Thank you, yeah. So thank you for
thank you for coming on. Go back to your daughter and have a lovely day. Thank you everyone for joining me today. And if you need more information about what I do or what Lucy does, go and visit her profile, go visit my profile, follow, hit the link in bio, and we'll see you somewhere in our worlds. Much love to you all. Take care. Bye-bye.